Alright, today I've got a video for you guys on Legends of Aria, an MMORPG that's currently in closed beta and will be releasing on Steam this year. Now don't boogie on out of here just yet, assuming this is the next cash grab turd of an MMO that's releasing this year, unlike some. Shots fired. Yes, I'm still a little salty, and I didn't even buy the game, I'm just a diva. So no, this game is clearly not a cash grab, it's an MMO that's been getting worked on hard by the small dev team that comprises Citadel Studios. And it seems to have made a ton of progress, and that's obvious because otherwise they wouldn't be releasing it to Steam so soon. Supreme, the head honcho at Citadel, has always said that he's not going to launch this MMO on Steam until it's ready, which is a damn fine call because as much as I like to spend an evening curled up in bed binging on brutal and hilarious Steam reviews, it's essentially my Netflix, I also love to read success stories, and I think all of us MMORPG gamers really need a success story right now. So I'm just gonna jump into the shit, give you guys a real good rundown of my first 8 hours in Legends of Aria. The immediate thing you'll notice upon starting LOA is this is a long-haul, goals-oriented kind of game. This isn't a one-night stand, hit it and quit it kind of individual. This is the guy or gal that you play the long game with, where you'll read Little House on the Prairie with her before you guys go to sleep holding hands. And you meet her parents, who automatically hate you because clearly she's dated guys in the past that aren't winners. But that's not you, you're an MMO player, and everyone knows MMO players are go-getters. Especially when the new raid releases and you call in sick to work, that's dedication. What I'm saying here is you won't be particularly excited by any specific moment when starting an LOA, but just like marriage, this game is a commitment and the reward comes down the line. The game didn't show me its titties right away, know what I'm saying, my dudes and gals? And that could be a problem for some people when there's games like Terra and BDO out there that offer instant gratification with their flashy gameplay. This game is way slower paced. So I spent a solid 3 hours of this time just mining, which is running around and clicking on rocks. Hunting for iron ores, you've got to look real close, get real up in it. We want to find these rocks that have these cracks with all the poo particles stuck in between. Sounds boring, right? Tell RuneScape that. Nothing I can tell you from my experience will get you super excited about LOA, but the same can be said for RuneScape, and a lot of you know how addictive that game would become. What LOA does right is making the grind feel worth it, with updates frequently popping up to let you know what sort of progress is happening towards the skill you're working on, as well as, same as any other MMO, the higher the skill means access to higher level skills, materials, schematics, and that respective skill. So before I get too carried away with just explaining the nature of the gameplay, I'll keep this video organized by breaking LOA down, first by pros and then by cons, and lastly by the neutrals, aka not a pro or a con. And keep in mind, this is all just my opinion, I always recommend you try the game out yourself. Pros. A sense of purpose. Legends of Aria is interesting because it wants you to focus your purpose on a few select things for each character. Your max skill level is 600, and I'm no math whiz, but if there's over 6 skills offered that you can level to 100, that means with a max skill level of 600, you can't get everything to max level. Now, some people may not like this since most sandbox MMORPGs don't really put a cap on what your character can accomplish, but it's a neat process to kind of have to sit down and think about what you want to do with this character you're creating before you create them. For instance, I want to be a blacksmith. That's what I want to offer the great peoples of Aria, all of you guys. My awesome gear. But I also want to be capable of defending my own ass while I smith the day and night away, because if you're a blacksmith and you can't use your own weapons, you can't say you a blacksmith. You can't make it Facebook official. Hey, can I buy a sword? You can just take it. What? You don't want any? No, you can take it. Are you sure, man? Because just please don't kill me. So as much as I enjoy trying to max every level in RuneScape, I feel like that's all I got caught up on. So this is just a personal thing, but the completionist in me is grateful that I get to work hard on developing my character into a focused few roles instead of a jack of all trades, because that allows me to get on with just enjoying the rest of the content out there once I'm done, instead of just enduring the grind. Plus, it promotes a lot more player interaction. I like the fact that I might have to seek out a trader looking to sell the potions they created, or a fisher to buy their cooked mackerel, or whatever the heck. Again, I know people hate when limitations get placed on them in a game. Everyone likes being the master of all trades, but I understand why the developers are trying this because this is an MMO, and how many MMORPGs do you play where you can technically ignore every other player for the whole experience, except when you want to get into that hardcore endgame content? So Citadel Studios is clearly trying to reinvigorate what MMOs are, which is about player interaction in a world that feels like players are working with players, not NPCs. Now to talk about performance for a minute, the closed beta performance is pretty solid. I really like the graphics. I know they just had an overhaul and it's pretty great that Citadel dropped this huge graphics update that no one really even expected. I get the odd performance hiccup like a freeze or some occasional crashes, which I fear the consequences of that happening if I do PvP, but for the most part the game has run smoothly and I've had consistent frames of over 60. Now, the amount of professions you can pursue is a huge pro. You feel like you're actually able to live out a medieval career. It's kinda neat because this is the first MMO in a long time where I haven't even felt a desire to work on my guy being this badass killing machine. Instead, I've been working on getting hand arthritis through mining, which is equally as fun. There are so many different options for professions you can specialize in, and this is seriously one of those few games where I considered focusing purely on being a traveling trader and focusing my 600 skill points on non-combat skills. But nah, I want to shank a hoe if I get jumped. You can be a fisher, cook, inscriptor, lumberjack, treasure hunter, and so on, or try to get experience in all of them. There's a big list of skills you can pursue. Now another positive is the very few monsters that are in this world will interact and fight with each other. Y'all gotta take a look at this. I'ma just step back a bit and invoke the look don't touch rule. Oh gosh, okay. Alright, if you insist, let's duke it out. I'ma drop a can of whoop ass. Shit, you straight out of Detroit. Okay, I'm leaving. Stop following me! Oh no, he killed that horse. What the Oh, he killed a wolf too? I don't really care about the wolf, but the horse! Gosh damn! Yo, this goblin dude is still here. He hasn't gone back to his camp or nothing. It's nighttime, bro. Go to sleep. From where he stopped chasing me 30 minutes ago, he has not left that spot. But I've just thought of an amazing opportunity. Yes, you dumb bastard. Follow along. Come with me. Oh, skeleton, zombies, I have a treat for you. And yes! Yes, it works. I'm gonna turn this green bastard into my minion and he doesn't even realize it. Let's go! Gather around, everybody! I want to tell you something. Alright, Humpty, go get him! Get him, buddy! Humpty, save your... Humpty, save your master! He's so stupid. They're all so stupid. Humpty, you've done a fine job today, Humpty. Holy shit. Alright, just looting one more body. Alright, let's go get him. Okay, now the goal is to get Humpty killed because he's getting kinda low on health, so I kinda really want to see what he drops. It's been an honor, Humpty, and no, the captain won't go down with the ship, but you certainly will, and I'm gonna steal all your shit. Okay, he's about to die, except I have no bandages or anything left, and I'm kinda running low on health, so I don't really know how I'm gonna pull off looting him or anybody else. And that's an archer, so he has a huge aggro radius. Okay, he's walking off. No, he's not. Oh, no. Come on. So close. Shit, no choice. Charge! This was 1 hour of work. Don't take this from me. Shit. Fucking damn it. And now everything spawned back. It would end like this. I guess Humpty got the last laugh. And my last pro is the biggest pro, which is the amount of possibilities and exciting moments that can unfold are multiplied tenfold, because Aria is a player-driven adventure, where you and I will ultimately shape the landscape, whether it be as simple as placing our own home down and setting up our own merchant shop outside of it, or by being the guild leader, charging your guildies into battle with a rival guild, which started over a dispute on if Jessica Alba is the ultimate MILF. I'd go to war for that, she is the ultimate MILF. Whether you want to be a trader roaming the land and supplying travelers with food and potions, whether you want to spend your days taming horses and selling them for a pretty penny, if you want to be a carpenter and construct villages for you and your friends to live in, or if you want to be a bandit and jump other players on their way to doing any of these things, Aria can offer that for you. I know I said this about Grand Scray Online, but that game just isn't even close to as polished as Aria, but Legends of Aria could easily offer for fantasy players what EVE Online offers for sci-fi players, which is kill anyone, rob their house. I don't think robbery has been added yet, but I think it's down the line. But there's repercussions. There's repercussions to the point where you'll think twice, maybe even 3 times about attacking a player. While Aria has full loot player versus player combat, it is absolutely not a focus of the game, in the same sense that it is in Albion Online. Aria is clearly just about building your life and your story in a fantasy world, and the devs probably felt to truly do that, there needs to be potential for anything to happen. This is not an on-rails experience, which I really appreciate. Alright lads and lasses, now I'm gonna shit talk the game. We've reached the dreaded cons. Now, my first con is a recurring thread topic on the Aria forums, and it's also one of my biggest cons. So that is, the world is very barren and very designated. And what I mean by that is, well, barren, meaning it's quite empty. You can be riding around for several minutes and find almost nothing of interest, which is in stark contrast to a lot of MMOs that are oozing with personality just from the world you're in. And that to me is a huge part of the MMO experience, the world being lush and exciting to explore and looking like it's full of secrets and wonders. You're not at all getting that in Aria, except for a few select places. For example, if you run in a straight line, you'll just see grass and trees, for instance, for most of that run. And you might come across something that's a bit different than that, but for the most part, not much to see or do. And what I mean by designated is, if you want to fight monsters, you go to a small specific spot on the map and there's monsters there. And then there's the towns and dungeons and so on. Like, there's very assigned areas for very specific things. And this is most noticeable in how there's pretty much no monsters roaming the lands. You really do have to go to designated areas if you're looking to fight enemy NPCs. And there's usually a big gap of empty land between, say, the town you're in and that area with the monster mobs. I think the reason the devs have left the world so empty is because of player housing. I don't know what all the limitations are, but it seems like there's quite a bit of freedom to place houses wherever you want in the world. So maybe they figure they need to leave a lot of this land untouched so players can ultimately be the influencers of the game world. But regardless, you're going to see a lot of repeating trees, repeating textures, just they need to pack this world with a bit more oomph. The next negative, Aria is primarily a PvP game, and it's very obvious the PvE that's been implemented so far has been kind of half-assed as a result. This ties heavily into the world being barren, in the sense that dungeons feel randomly generated, and the lack of creatures to fight in the world is a telling sign that PvP is getting all the love. At first I thought I'd enjoy the idea of a PvP-focused MMORPG. That's actually why I started following Aria in the first place. But it's obvious in LOA it's come at a cost, because when I do get that itch for PvE, which I assume most players will at some point even for a short period, there's a lack of depth in that regard. It'd be really sick if there was an MMORPG that had this PvP-centric full loot gameplay, while simultaneously offering some fun PvE for those days you just don't feel like jumping people in the woods or getting into a war. Now I want to be clear, this PvP focus is not a negative for me. I'm not saying the PvP is a negative, but more saying the PvE could use some TLC as well. Historically, PvP-focused MMORPGs haven't done very well, so I'm worried Aria will lose that PvE market quickly if they release on Steam, even if they add it down the road. Because it's hard to give MMOs another chance, as they're huge time investments, and if people get disappointed, they'll usually break ties for good, and that's something I've done as well with several games in this genre. So my final thought for this point is I hope they flesh out PvE a lot more, because I think the gameplay of LOA would be complemented super well by some complex and detailed dungeons and some world bosses or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of free space, so you could probably just make the boss like half the size of the map, and he'd probably just clip through like 2 trees. Okay, that was mean, but you see my point. Give those PvE guys some love. Next con is the grueling process of obtaining new blacksmithing recipes through craft orders. So I'm hoping this isn't a norm and each player gets a randomized craft order, but my first craft order was to give the blacksmith 80 iron daggers. 80 freaking iron daggers, so I had to mine 1200 iron ores, smelt them into 250 iron bars, and then use 3 of them per iron dagger. As you can imagine, that would take quite a bit of time, and by the time I completed the order, I wasn't gaining any more blacksmithing experience, because I got too high a level. So the only reason I was still gathering all these damn daggers was for the craft order. So I hand the craft order in and I get my new blacksmithing recipe. Finally, pumped up. Yeah, I only got 1 recipe for some reason, but whatever, scale legging sounds pretty lit. Go to blacksmith it, because surely after that grind the game wouldn't have rewarded me with a recipe that I can't use. And guess what Goose cannot use? He's 27 levels below using. So at this point I'm just like the saltiest of wenches, but I'm like, hey, everything's okay, baby girl. Because that's how I talk to myself to calm myself down. I'm like, hey, okay, bring on the next crafting order. Maybe I'll get a recipe I can blacksmith for this one. But guess what? The second crafting order is freaking 80 iron maces. Are you kidding me? The amount of crack cocaine I'd have to take to endure that crap again would get me a permanent room in rehab. I'm tired of it, Ari. I'm tired of it. Sorry about that. Next con, no lore to the world. There's no underlying story of how this world came to be, details of the world, no history of the fantastical past of Aria to get us enthused about living here. None that I found, at least. I found 3 lore entries on their game site from over 4 years ago. But once again, this touches on the lack of world development, both physically and, I guess, mythologically. I know since this game is mostly fueled by the players, a lot of the stories will come from moments that actually take place between gamers. But I mean, look at Eve, it has these insanely epic storylines that have ended up on the news, and you'd think that's all the game needs. Those player-driven encounters that form a narrative for the rest of the players. But no, Eve still offers a lot of lore and it's so much better for it. And I know Eve is a very different type of MMO, but look at WoW. I mean, plenty of people play that game not even for the gameplay, but for the story and the world alone. Because it's so magical, all these tales and folklore hugely enrich and even drive the experience. I know WoW is a horrible example because it's been getting its story developed for more than a decade by a much larger studio, but I'm just trying to drive home the point that even a bit of a backstory and some relics or tales of the past can add a ton of immersion for players. Not just these AIs walking around dropping these silly one-liners on repeat. Now, if you look at the game section of the LOA website, there's a section where they spotlight some areas they'll be adding to the world, which seem to have some backstory, or at least it looks like they're signaling some potentially juicy areas to build some awesome stories around. So fingers crossed this lore issue will be handled down the line. And now for my last negative, which is the world doesn't feel sprawling. While traversing this map on a horse, it doesn't take you too long to get from point A to B, and you begin realizing the world isn't as big as it looks on the map. It's not small, but it's also not too big for an MMO, and you can quickly start getting the sense of being entrapped when you hit the end of the map. My character isn't the highest combat level, so for safety reasons I've stayed glued to Helm, which is one of the town ports. Cities, you know. But I decided to ride around for a little bit once I got my horse, and was surprised at how quickly I was moving across the game world. Like I mentioned before, there's some awesome looking zones that are getting worked on by the devs, so definitely not a top priority kind of thing. I'd actually rather they keep the world at the size it's at for now, just so they can build on what they already have and add some excitement to it. But hopefully down the road, once they've done that, they'll either pack on a lot of fun stuff into this current world or add more regions or whatever. Now for the 5 out of 10s, also known as neutrals. So this first neutral could go either way for any of you, and that's why I put it on this list. Community servers. So to sum this up, players can create their own servers with their own rule set, so you have completely different server rules from the official server, which sounds kind of awesome, and you can do so much with that because you can add your own spin on how to play this game, as well as mods to make it completely fresh of an experience from the official server. Like, there's a server that is dedicated to remaking the Ultima Online experience as closely as possible in Legends of Aria. I know there's already some community servers that are bumping, and you'll see them when you look at that tab when server searching, but the only drawback I can see from having this is the player base can get pretty divided up. Like, lots of players playing in community ones, then the official one takes a hit from it. You know, all sorts of different scenarios can come from that. I'm not too worried about that happening, but you never know. I'm sure there'll be go-to servers for players, just like RuneScape kind of has its popular servers and not so popular servers. And for the second neutral, the survival elements, as light as they are, which equates to stuff like character starvation and tiredness, which can result in the player not being able to level up their skills or do anything but run around because they're just so exhausted. Oh man, oh yeah, get a load of that view. Sometimes it's nice to just come up here, have a thought to myself, and just enjoy the serene, oh for fuck's sake. It can be kind of annoying, it just gets in the way of the fun. You have to run to an inn and pretty much just sit by a fireplace while your vitality recovers. I have yet to see if there's a good reason for these mechanics to be in LOA, but as of right now, it's just annoying to have to eventually drop what you're doing because your character is apparently so exhausted, he can't even progress his levels. I mean, shit, put on some muscle, son! The third neutral is player creation. It's not horrible, but it's not great. It's obvious they haven't put much resources into developing this part of the game much, but at the same time, I found enough options that I liked well enough that I didn't care too much. There were several different looks that I tried out for my characters that I really dug, so there's enough variety for now. And the last neutral, the inventory bag. It gets cluttered pretty quick. Cool concept for sure, but when it's packed with dozens of things that are unique to one another, it becomes an organization game, and as a guy whose organization skills are just as bad as they were in grade 2, if any of you watching are currently in grade 2, just learn organization. Your organization skills might not win over 8-year-old Sally, but 20-year-old Becky will love it when you show up to your date on time. Life lessons with the Dungus. And now we're at the advice section of the video. Damn it, I should have put the grade 2 advice over here. It's fine though. First tip of advice for the new guy. Helm is a great place to spawn if you want to get into mining and blacksmithing, since there's literally a big mine right next to you, and a bank and an anvil very close by as well. Advice piece number 2. Freaking, if you want to level up a skill and you're set on it, find a trainer that you can pay 300 coins to boost you to level 30 in that skill. I made the mistake of thinking, hey, I'll save myself a buck and try to do it the free way, and literally hours of mining later, I still haven't gathered enough materials to hit 30 blacksmithing, when I could have just found the bastard trainer for it. The I'll save myself a buck thought process is as successful as it is in real life. Just spend the coin and save yourself a world of pain. My guy's shattered every bone in his arms trying to get to level 30 and I'm still not there. My final tip of advice, get a horse. Like as fast as you freaking can, get a horse. If the camera was placed behind your character, it'd probably look like he's running at a decent pace, but the camera in LOA makes you feel like you're Gumby, you run so damn slow. And that's my final piece of advice. I don't know very much, so I'm not going to be that helpful. I thought it'd be wise to cover Legends of Aria because it's one of the very, very few MMORPGs releasing this year, and it's obvious since I first found this game that the devs are working hard to get this game ready to go, and truly polished before its Steam launch. The same which can't be said for the likes of other MMOs. Plus, I'm looking at you, you dumb bastard. And that's another thing, this game is expected to release in the next few months on Steam, so if it's getting very close to the point where the devs feel like unleashing their game to the unforgiving Steam audience, then I certainly feel comfortable purchasing it. And lastly, this game just doesn't really get covered by the big MMORPG channels, so I really wanted to spotlight it and give some attention to what I feel is probably the last MMORPG to look forward to in 2018. The last worthwhile one that I know that's confirmed to release in 2018. So I hope you enjoyed the coverage on Legends of Aria. I just wanted to talk about one last thing, and that is the state of the MMORPG genre. So here's the thing, I've always planned on buying Aria. I was gonna wait for its Steam release, but the other day I got tired of waiting and just said screw it. What other MMO can I play right now? And that's the thing, I'm tired of thinking screw it, I'll invest because I'm pretty much desperate. People say the MMORPG genre is doing just fine because of the continued successes of games like ESO, WoW, and Final Fantasy XIV, but I see it as an indication of the failures of all the releases that have come after it, and somewhat of a collapse of the genre as a result. Right now, more than ever, this genre is struggling because while the aforementioned games are incredible, the fact that no new title has been able to threaten games that are 4 to 14 years old is worrisome. This genre isn't progressing, it's stuck in place and nothing worthwhile has come out in years from the AAA devs, and MMORPGs from indie devs just kind of maintain a niche following, as in they don't have huge populations. There's nothing big coming out on the immediate horizon either, the ones that may be the closest to releasing coming from indie teams that regularly announce delays. To the developers of Bless Online, not freaking cool guys, you were the one big name MMORPG coming out this year and you freaking blew it. What an absolute joke. So, as a result, all we can hope is games like Legends of Aria find their footing in the community and continue to grow and improve on the weaknesses, of which there seems to be quite a few at the moment. There's a very cool vibe to the game. I like how player interaction is at the forefront of Aria's gameplay, and the gameplay itself seems like it can be really fun. But the world just needs more personality, more creatures roaming about, more everything. Make us want to explore every bit of this world, and as for this genre, one I've loved for a decade and a half, I hope some developer comes along and breaks this stagnant spell. I mean shit, you can see the dire future we MMO players have just by doing a simple YouTube search of MMORPG. All those MMORPG top 5 channels are releasing practically the same videos over and over, talking about the same MMOs that have been announced years ago and haven't released or have been released for years. Closing thoughts, to the devs working on all those MMORPG titles that released years ago, thank you for updating them and trying to offer fresh content to tie us over in your game to weather this massive drought. To the devs of Legends of Aria and all the other smaller MMOs coming up, release the game when you're happy with it. Don't rush it out, because as thirsty as we are for something new, there's been too many disappointments and we are in need of a well-polished gem. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video was way longer than I intended, but this is truly one of the last few MMORPGs releasing this year, so I thought I needed to make it as thorough as possible for you guys, and that's also why it took so long to release a video. I did put about 45 hours into making this video, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a comment or a like, and consider sticking around with my channel, and subscribe! I'm giving 2 thumbs up, you can't see them, but most importantly, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys think of both LOA and the MMO genre in its current state. Thanks so much and take care.